So today we'll be going over the hip hinge and one of my favorite movements to help you find a comfy hip hinge when you do load it, when you do add weight. All you're going to need for this video is a stick and your body. I'm using my yoga mat for comfort, but you can be doing this on a carpet or anything else that works best that you have around your home. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our hip hinge. It really helps to have a nice stick. You can use a broom, you could use a PVC pipe, something like this. And this is going to help you find good alignment, because a lot of us when we practice these don't really know where our body is at in space when we do them, and a stick can be a really helpful tool. So with your stick, I want you to bring it to the back of your head, and then I want you to feel the back of your head, your mid-back, and then your tailbone on the stick. So you feel all of those points of contact. If we are either tilted a lot anteriorly or we're tilted a lot posteriorly, you might find that things are moving away from the stick and that you don't feel those 3 points of contact. So you're either going to find that tuck of the pelvis if you're in a little bit of a tilt with your butt sticking out behind you to bring that lower one to the stick, or you're going to find a little bit of arch of a pelvis. But either way, we're finding neutral spine. So neutral spine is where you can feel all of these points, and you're going to move that pelvis in either way, an arch or a tuck, to get you into that position. Once you find that position, all of them on the stick, back of the head, upper back, somewhere on the low back and the sacrum area, your feet are going to come hip width apart distance. From there, shoulders pull back in together like you're squeezing a pencil in between your shoulder blades. And then keeping all of these points of contact on the stick, we're going to think about sending the butt back behind you. You're going to stop when you feel a nice stretch in your hamstrings. Some of my clients won't feel this one in their hamstrings. Sometimes they'll feel their hips. But you're going to send your hips back, keeping all of those points of contact on the stick. And we're going to practice this movement somewhere in between 15 to 50 times. Especially if you've never done any kind of hinge before, this is really going to make sure that when we do add weight, when we do add load, when we do go add these in our workout, we're doing them correctly. And that means we're going to be able to get a lot more engagement out of the posterior chain, because one of the most common things you'll hear is like, deadlifts hurt my back. Deadlifts I feel in my low back. And if you're doing this movement, hip extension, correctly, it's all posterior chain. Yes, some of the spinal erectors around the low back are working, but the big prime movers here are your butt and your hamstrings. So if you aren't feeling those correctly, it could be because your pelvis is in the wrong position, which is why we use the stick, or your hips aren't firing, your hips are not going back enough, far enough. You're doing it rather as a different movement all entirely here. So again, we're finding 20 to 50 of these, feeling really confident about keeping all of those points of contact with our stick. Awesome. And then once we have that down, that variation of the movement feels really good. We're going to go into one of my favorite exercises I've used before every time my client does any kind of hip hinge movement. So your feet are going to come really wide. Your toes are going to face ahead. We have equal weight through all parts of the foot, big toe, pinky toe, and heel. And then you're driving those knees out and away from you. I like to find hands to low back, but you can also have hands behind your back, hands at your hips, anywhere that feels more comfortable in your body. And then we're thinking about squeezing that pencil in between our shoulders, finding that neutral spine, like we just found with that stick, imagining that stick, we're on the back of our head, our upper back, and our low back. And then you're going to think about sending your butt back behind you on this one. You're going to stop when you feel a nice big stretch, either in your hamstrings, your hips, your butt, or even your inner legs here. That's how you know you've gone far enough. And then you're going to push your feet to the ground, come up nice and tall. So if you see this from the side, my feet are nice and wide, shoulders pull back and together. We're finding that neutral spine and zipping up, and then sending my butt back until I feel a big stretch. You might also feel this one a little bit in your low back, because I'm treating this as a stretch here today, so I will feel a little bit from sitting. But that you will feel hamstrings probably the most, inner legs, everything on that posterior chain stretching. And again, this is something you can do before your workouts 10 to 50 times to get that hip hinge movement solidified and to open up the lower body and posterior chain for what you're about to lift here. Awesome. So be sure to leave me any questions in the comments you have about this one. This is a movement that you're going to have to be doing for the rest of your life to pick up something from the floor, to pick up a heavy object. So it's really important that we're not fearing the hip hinge, fearing the deadlift, and that instead we're taking time to learn the correct form and practice it correctly, so we'll be able to do this for ourselves for the rest of our life. Awesome, guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.